years after the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage, we're back here again.
Republican, A for Trump in the comments, because come here, I want your response to this.
Today is a day that ends in Y, so woke people on the internet are melting down for no reason. We're going to break this down and so much more on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across our media, our politics, and the internet, all from an independent perspective. Guys, TikTok, Twitter, and other left-wing social media spaces are in meltdown mode over a news story that fundamentally no one seems to understand regarding the Supreme Court and a request that was just made that they take up a case challenging the legitimacy of the Supreme Court decision from 2015 that enshrined gay marriage nationwide, which is known as Obergefell v. Hodges. So here is ABC News reporting on this story that has people panicking for no actually valid reason. Take a listen.
10 years after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage across the United States, it could now be overturned. Senior Washington correspondent Devin Dwyer is on the story for us. All right, give us the deal, Devin. Who is actually asking the justices to overturn this?
Well, in recent years, Kira, we've been waiting for a case like this as some of the sentiment in the country has started to shift a little bit, softened rather, against same-sex marriage. There's been a lot of talk about whether the justices will get a chance to reconsider the case. And as you said there, they are getting that opportunity next month. We've learned that Kim Davis, she's that Kentucky clerk from back in 2015 that was at the center of international controversy when she refused to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple in Kentucky in defiance of the Supreme Court. She spent 6 days in jail. She lost a defamation suit. She had to pay $100,000 in damages, $260,000 in legal fees. That's what she's appealing to the Supreme Court, but it's the first time, Kira, that anyone has technically asked the justices explicitly to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, which was that landmark ruling. And she does just that. Her counsel in this petition, which was filed last week, says that decision was egregiously wrong. And if that sounds familiar, that's the same type of argument that was made by opponents of abortion when they sought to overturn Roe versus Wade just a few years ago. So a lot of eyes on this petition. It's unclear whether the court will take it up, but certainly a lot on the line.
The comments on this video were interesting. We all died in 2020, and this is hell. Realistically, how far are we from segregation? 42,000 people liked that tweet. They told us we were fear-mongering when we said this would happen, just like Roe v. Wade. Is this because Elon left Trump? Okay, that one's kind of funny. Now, guys, I want to show you, and I'll probably have to change out the music for copyright, but these dramatic TikToks have been getting like 1 million views that come across my feed. It's just these white women looking sad and like sharing the news like, this is happening. Oh, this is the end. Now, I'm going to explain how this all actually works and why these people melting down are making a series of assumptions that aren't actually true or correct. And there's actually no real cause for concern, even if you're a strong supporter of gay marriage being legal, like I most certainly am. First, though, I want to play you a funny video from one left-wing socialist influencer offering his very serious, very accurate commentary about this issue.
So I've always been right, and I always will be right. And right now, the Supreme Court has been formally asked to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, which is what gives gays the right to marry here in the United States, or same-sex marriage here in the United States. And they're going to get rid of it. They're going to. The Supreme Court is packed 6-3. Their hands selected by Trump. And also, I mean, the Supreme Court did a 9-0 unanimous decision and gave Trump the order to return Garcia, and he refused. So the Supreme Court doesn't have any power other than legitimizing Trump's illegal actions. Now, to those of you who are like, Chris, they would never do that. They did it to Roe v. Wade, so why are you being so naive? And then the scary part is what comes next. And after that gets overturned, they're going to go for interracial marriage. And a couple of things. These people don't care who you voted for, right? So proof is for all the gays who voted for Trump, right? They don't care. You put him in power, and now he's just going to f you over. He doesn't give a shit. And the second thing that I want to say is I take no pride in being right. I take no pride in telling you what I think is going to happen and then it happening. Because more often than not, what I think is going to happen is the worst possible outcome. And things got to get worse before they can get better. I'm not an oracle, but it's pretty easy to tell what's going on when you read the writing on the wall.
Oh my gosh, this guy is so arrogant and so smug, which is crazy because he doesn't know what he's talking about. First things first, the Trump administration actually did facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States. So they did comply with that Supreme Court ruling after an unfortunate delay. And I was pretty critical of their handling, but they have in fact, the Trump administration has in fact complied with every Supreme Court ruling. And so to say they're powerless is not true. Also, interracial marriage is not being challenged. That's not a question presented in the underlying case here. And that's not a thing, not happening. You're hallucinating, my dude. I'm going to explain the rest of this story and how it doesn't add up and nothing that significant has even happened here that prompted this ABC News reporting that has all these people panicking after this. Guys, I've had threats sent to my home before, so I understand better than anyone how important it is to get your personal information off the internet. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. If you've ever wondered how spammers get your phone number or why your email inbox is flooded with spam, well, here's why. There are companies called data brokers that sell your data. They do it without your consent, and they make millions selling it to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And while they're legally required to move your information if you ask, they make the process confusing and hard on purpose. That's why I recommend today's sponsor, Aura, to my family and friends. They take care of the hard part, automatically removing your information from all of these sites and keeping it off. I use Aura to get my address taken off the internet so it's harder for haters to harass me and to decrease the endless robocalls and spam emails. And you can too. Plus, if anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection, and they have US fraud experts ready to help 24/7. Try Aura for 14 days for free at aura.com/Polumbo. In those 2 weeks, you'll discover where your data is being sold. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. Okay, guys, let's talk about some Supreme Court 101, some Civics 101 that people on the internet really don't seem to understand. All that has happened here in this case, as you heard in the ABC News reporting, which I think was, it was all technically true, but it was kind of presented in a more alarmist manner without some of the context and nuance that makes it clear why this isn't that significant a development. All that has happened is that a case has been presented. They have requested review by the Supreme Court. This woman, Kim Davis, who, by the way, very crazy story involving her, and I think she's been married multiple times, so her being an anti-gay marriage crusader and standing for the fidelity of marriage is slightly funny to me. But anyway, they have asked the Supreme Court to take up their case. The Supreme Court has not accepted the case. It has not given any indication that it will accept the case. The Supreme Court gets asked to take about 8,000 cases a year and accepts about 80 of them. That is about 1% of the cases. So just because they asked this random plaintiff does not mean the court will review it. In fact, it remains extremely unlikely that they will. And then here's the real kicker, guys. Even if they did take the case, which to be crystal clear has not happened, it is not at all guaranteed that they would overturn Obergefell or gay marriage. You have 3 liberal justices on the court, and it's safe to say that they would vote to keep gay marriage. You need 5 to reach a majority. Then you have Chief Justice John Roberts, who does not like big sweeping changes and doesn't believe in overturning longstanding precedent absent very good reasons to do so, and is very concerned about the reputation of the court and other things that suggest he may well rule or vote, if this did come up, with the liberals to uphold gay marriage. Then you have Brett Kavanaugh, who in his decision on Roe v. Wade, overturning Roe v. Wade, specifically cautioned that this does not mean the court can or should revisit the issue of gay marriage. Right there, you have potentially 5 justices to uphold Obergefell were they to take the case. And then you have Neil Gorsuch. No one really knows how he would vote because he's actually issued rulings expanding gay rights in the past, but he does have a more conservative jurisprudence and legal philosophy. So we don't really know how he would vote. Honestly, we don't necessarily know how Amy Coney Barrett would vote. The only 2 who I think it's safe to predict would vote to overturn gay marriage are most likely Justice Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. I think they probably would. But regardless, the Supreme Court has not taken the case. And even if they did take the case, there's actually, we don't know that they would necessarily overturn gay marriage with this composition of the court. They issue lots of rulings that are not strict conservative ideological outcomes. And they actually practice a legal philosophy wherever it takes them. Now, the other thing is that even if, and again, I think this is an extremely unlikely scenario, even if they were to overturn Obergefell, gay marriage would remain accessible in all 50 states, thanks to the Respect for Marriage Act, bipartisan legislation passed during Biden's presidency, which enshrines legal access under federal law to gay marriage and requires states to honor gay marriages performed in other states. So while the federal government can't force a state like Texas to perform gay marriages itself, what the Respect for Marriage Act would mean would be that even if Obergefell were overturned, you could, if you were a gay person living in Texas, you could travel to Massachusetts, get married, then move back to Texas, and Texas would be required to accept and honor your marriage. So in all 50 states, you would still be able to access gay marriage, even if Obergefell were overturned, which again, it has not been. The other funny thing here is that this is not about Trump. The plaintiff has no connection to Trump. The justices haven't changed since Trump's second term began. This exact scenario could easily have played out if Kamala Harris had been elected president. It really doesn't have anything to do with the 2024 election. Yet there's been a weird kind of targeted backlash lashing out at the gays for Trump voters from a lot of progressive commentators online after this news. Here's one video from a particularly noxious individual named Cole.
Supreme Court is now formally being asked to review and overturn same-sex marriage. So Obergefell versus Hodges. So Ken Carson, AJ Sanchez, Leo Skepi, Daniel speaks up when he shouldn't. Come here, actually. Tag any other Republican gay for Trump in the comments, because come here. I want your response to this. How are they attacking our rights? Right here? Right here, love. Or is it that you don't see marriage as that important? You don't need to get married, or you understand you're never going to get married. You're never going to get picked, bitch. Let me be clear. Donald Duck chose these justices. So if it gets overturned, yes, in fact, it is Donald Duck's fucking fault. Yes, please come and get on your knees for Donald Duck and explain why you have no problem with this. Or would this be the moment that you fall out of the MAGA cult? Would you stop defending Donald Duck over this? This is not just an attack on trans folks, it also affects you too. So would you care only then? Yeah, bitch, I need that. I need that with all of y'all, because y'all got up on your platforms and likes, comments, views, and money was so important to you that you were okay selling out your own community. Fucking loser.
He seems stable and lovely. Now, I am not a gays for Trump. I voted for the third party candidate, the Libertarian Party nominee, and I've been pretty critical of Trump, but I have some friends who are. And given that Trump is pretty openly pro-gay and supportive of gay marriage and appointed a high-ranking gay cabinet official, the highest ranking ever, actually, with Scott Bessent, I don't really think there's anything contradictory between being gay and voting for Trump if you otherwise agree with him on other things. Regardless, though, this person has no idea what he's talking about. He doesn't even know the name of the gay marriage case, which is Obergefell, by the way. Obergefell. But please educate us more about how this all really works, even though you don't know how it works. The Supreme Court, again, hasn't accepted the case. Somebody just asked them to review a case, which happens about 8,000 times a year, and they only take up 1% of those cases. So they haven't done anything. Trump's appointed Supreme Court justices have not taken the case or signaled that they will, let alone gone on to overturn Obergefell. Now, I do agree that if, for example, Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch were to all come together and overturn Obergefell, that Trump would have some responsibility for that because he did nominate those justices during his first term. But this exact scenario could have still played out even if Kamala had been elected president in 2024, because no court seats have changed hands. It's the same justices. It's the same random plaintiff somewhere who made this request. None of this really has bearing on the 2024 election. And regardless, gay marriage would be, like I mentioned, protected by the Respect for Marriage Act, which Trump has never signaled he seeks to overturn. So there's a lot of anger and bitterness and projection emanating and radiating from these kinds of videos, but they don't actually seem to understand how anything works because nothing really significant has actually happened yet. Maybe it will. I don't think it will, but maybe it will. I could be wrong about that, but I'm absolutely not wrong about the fact that simply someone requesting Supreme Court review on a case is not a notable development in and of itself. But what do you guys think? Have you seen this panic spreading on social media? Did you fall for it at first before I explained it all? Let me know in the comments. Do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet and hit that like button while you are at it. Remember to send in your voicemails for my Voicemail Friday episodes where I react to your woke horror stories, your personal life scenarios, and answer any questions you guys have for me. The link to send in one of those is in the description. Up next, we've got to check in with our favorite Democratic member of Congress, the one and only Jasmine Crockett. My love, my bae, our queen. She's not a fan of us, the mediocre white boys, of course, but we love her because she's the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to content. There's a new story we're going to go over from the New York Post where a bunch of ex-staffers explain that Jasmine Crockett is kind of a boss from hell. Let's read from this. Exclusive New York Post reporting from Stephen Nelson. Trump critic Rep. Jasmine Crockett is a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes staffers, aides say, quote, all diva, no wow. I don't exactly know what that means, but it doesn't sound good. Rep. Jasmine Crockett has positioned herself as an unfiltered critic of President Trump, earning regular TV appearances and an enthusiastic online following. But congressional aides tell the Post that the Dallas Democrat is just as rude and mean to her own staff. The liberal loudmouth, 44, hey, she looks good for 44, dang, has rocketed to fame since taking office in January 2023 as a fiery antagonist of the Republican president and his allies. But three sources who have worked with or for Crockett say she's rarely present when TV cameras aren't rolling and terrorizes staff when she does appear. Well, that's just a glowing review from the people close to you, isn't it? I mean, you hear this about a number of lawmakers, and oftentimes these ex-staffers criticizing them are, they're always Democrats because they're working for Democratic members, and oftentimes they are Black women. They are the exact demographic of people that they claim they stand for. And they're like, actually, these woke bosses treat us terribly. And it sounds like Jasmine may fall into that category. She is laying around her apartment, won't come into the office, and is really just indifferent to staff and will scream at them, the former aide said. She's never in the office and is very disengaged. She does her bullshit that goes viral and then freaks out over the most random things. You might be wondering what they mean by she's never in the office. Well, the article does explain. Crockett is not often found at her government-provided suite in the Longworth House office building, with one insider saying she prefers to work from her nearby luxury apartment building, sometimes for weeks on end. Yes, I'm sure she's very hard at work, working from home. They also share in the article this really funny story about how she demands to be driven around by her staffers in rented cars rather than what they normally do, which is just having the staffers use their own vehicles. And she like sits in the back like it's an Uber, and she really does think she's hot shit. She really does. The second source, close to Crockett's team, added, "It is widely known that she's not nice to staff and is just not really a dedicated member focused on constituents. She's focused almost exclusively on being an influencer, not a member of Congress," said a third source who has worked with Crockett, describing her as all diva, no wow. Now look, I can't verify the allegations made in this article, and I always do take things with a grain of salt when they come from anonymous sources who sometimes have a score to settle or a personal vendetta or bias, but I have to be honest. None of this seems out of keeping with Jasmine Crockett's public persona or character whatsoever. It really does seem to align exactly with the version of herself she presents in public. I mean, in some ways it doesn't, because she, I'm sure, denies all these allegations, as we will come to, but like, this is the exact same energy she gives off. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if she's that way behind closed doors to her staff. She gives egotistical. She gives brash. She gives rude. Honestly, she embodies many of the worst traits of Donald Trump that she often criticizes, that I think her criticisms are often hyperbolic, but sometimes have some truth. But like, she's like that too. She's kind of like a woke Trump, except less funny. Now, I want to pause for a moment and give you guys a chance to guess how would Jasmine Crockett respond to these allegations. I'm just going to pause on this. Let me know in the comments. Doon, 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 doon. Yep, played the race card. The least shocking turn of events ever. Jasmine Crockett responded to these allegations in an interview on cable news with Major Garrett over at, I think, CBS. And she said, wah, 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 I'm a black woman, basically. Take a listen to this clip.
Are you a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes staffers?
Oh my goodness. Listen, I know that I have arrived, honey. That is the way that I see this. Because as Beyonce says, if they're not talking about you, then obviously you must not be doing anything. You know what? This is just more slander, more nonsense, more lies. And honestly, I don't think that the New York Post would probably be the first ones to be able to figure out if I was a boss from hell. You and I were joking before we got on camera about all of the scrutiny that comes with being not only woman, but being young and being a black woman. Yeah, there's a lot of scrutiny that comes my way, and it comes my way from all different angles. But when people start talking about you, that's when you know that you are obviously getting under their skin. So I am not going to give up. There's a song that I like to quote every once in a while. It says, "Your hate is my motivation." So keep hating. All it does is motivate me to continue to do what I do, which is to be loud and proud on behalf of the American people.
So you hear this a lot from people. Well, they're just hating me because I'm over the target. And people across the spectrum say this, and maybe it's true in some cases, but it's definitely not true in all cases. I mean, did people just hate Osama bin Laden because he was onto something? Personally, I don't think so. That's not my take. Like, sometimes they hate you because you're hateable, not because you're doing amazing work and they feel threatened. Like, it could be that, but it could also not. Crockett, it could also not. And the invocation of her race and her gender, I'm a black woman. So what? Black women can be great. They can also suck because they're people. They're individuals who deserve to be evaluated and analyzed based on their own merits and character and actions. And your public comments and character are not great, if we'll say so, Jasmine Crockett. So it would not surprise me if she is similarly nightmarish behind the scenes, as this New York Post article suggests. And it is absolutely a cheap deflection to just invoke, I'm a black woman, so I'm being scrutinized. Actually, a lot of the staffers complaining about you are black women too. And that's specifically referenced in the New York Post article. So other than that, you really ate that up. You really dismissed that criticism there, except for the part where you didn't address any of it at all and just played the victim and then acted like being hated means you're inherently correct, even though that's not true. Other than that, though, Jasmine, you're doing amazing. But honestly, shout out to you, girl, and thank you, because I have to come up with a lot of content for this show. And on that front, you are the gift that keeps on giving. What do you guys think? Are you big Jasmine Crockett fans? Let me know in the comments. Up next, we got to roast another person because y'all just can't act right. Like, all I need is for y'all to make a little bit of sense. And then I won't have to get up here and roast you. But when you make no sense, when you are complete and total hypocrites, I have to roast you if you decide to enter politics or political media. So that's what we have to do to Miss Miley Biggs, who is the daughter of a Republican member of Congress, Andy Biggs. And I'm just going to read you the headline from the Phoenix New Times because they are Arizona based. Women shouldn't hold office, says GOP woman now running for office. I don't know if I would vote for any female, said state Senate hopeful Miley Biggs, the daughter of GOP rep Andy Biggs. And yes, as Miley explained in a Twitter post, she is now running for elected office, state Senate in LD 14 in Arizona. So I wanted to know, okay, this woman said that women shouldn't run for office. Is this from like 15 years ago? Is this some joke she said? No, this is from a podcast interview she did only about a year ago. Take a listen to this clip.
Honestly, I don't know if I would vote for any female. I don't know if female should be in office. Yeah. There are a lot of really good women in office.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hate on anyone. even like some really good congresswomen. I don't think women should hold office in general. It's a man's position.
Yeah.
That's my stance. I think women should, run the home.
See, that's a really uncommon stance, like in general, especially nowadays. So what kind of fuels that? Just kind of seeing it firsthand, or, just growing up, your belief system? What kind of fuels that thought process?
A little bit of both, because it is kind of a hot take even amongst the conservatives. Like, a lot of my own, circle don't agree with that necessarily. Like, women should be wherever they want, but like, I don't know, it's just modern feminism has like transformed incredibly in the past few years, starting with women's right to vote, and went rampant from there. And like, there's so many videos on even TikTok where so many girls are waking up and are like, whoever fought for my right to work, like, I hate them.
Yeah.
Because
so relatable.
Because right now I'm in a 9-to-5, and it's it's a really good situation. My 9-to-5 is probably the best I could ask for.
Yeah.
But like, I hate a 9-to-5 schedule. Like, I get home and I'm like, I don't want to do anything else. Like, women aren't built for this.
Yeah.
Like,
put me back in the kitchen, bro.
Yeah, no, literally. Like, I just want to be a wife. I just want to be a mom. Like, that's what I want to do. And I think a lot of other women are waking up to that too. They're like, I don't want a 9-to-5. I want to be a wife. I want to be a mom. Like, all the feminism leaving their bodies once they have to, do a 9-to-5.
Right.
And like, I totally agree with that. And I think that applies to politics too. Like, women are supposed to be the nurturers and, take care of the home, be mothers. And
right.
Like, if you're out in Congress or out doing something else, like, what are your kids doing? Or like, are you,
Yeah.
And like, that's really what, I'm not trying to be sexist in any way. I truly believe that that's what women are really good at. That's where they that's where they shine, is at home.
I'm actually going to crash out. I'm going to crash out. This woman, who y'all just heard fix her mouth to say women shouldn't hold office, females belong in the kitchen, is now running for elected office about 9 months after making those comments. You can't make this shit up. You couldn't concoct this level of hypocrisy in a lab as a textbook example of hypocritical bullshit. My take on her candidacy is very simple. Shut the f*** up and get in the kitchen and go make me a sandwich, woman. Get it. Oh, that's cute. You want to be in elected office? Sorry. You're part of the gentle sex. You need to go put on an apron, get in the kitchen, bake me some sourdough bread, actually. That'd be nice. So then when the men are done working and doing the important business, you can serve us our coffee and our lunch. And you can speak when spoken to, Miley. No more podcast interviews, actually. Men should be talking about these things. Like, oh my gosh. Obviously, I don't believe any of this. I believe in equality. I think women should decide for themselves what they want to do with their lives. And for many women, that will mean being homemakers and mothers, and that is wonderful and that is beautiful. And for some women, that will mean not having kids, or it may mean having kids, but also pursuing a career or running for Congress once your kids are older. Like, the flattening and totality and totalization of this, you either have kids or you're are a good mother or you have a career, is not necessarily accurate to me. It can definitely be difficult to juggle both, but people can and do. And many of the same points could be absolutely raised about men, but no one seems to, right? Like, oh, you're in Congress and you're in your 30s and you have kids. Well, who's raising your kids, sir? Now, of course, in reality, many of them are able to juggle and have decent work-life balance and see their kids and still be good dads. But these same questions could easily be presented to fathers, and they don't get presented. So interesting how that works out. Look, I am sympathetic to many of the critiques of modern feminism, and it's going way too far in so many ways. But then on the other hand, you have these retrograde wannabe trad wives who will get up on a podcast and yap about how women belong in the kitchen, but of course never have that energy for their own lives. Seriously, why is that? Oh, it's almost like people actually should be free, and people are actually individuals, and their biological sex doesn't mean they're only good for one thing and can only serve one purpose in life, and that's being barefoot in the kitchen with one on the way and holding two kids in your arms baking sourdough. Like, y'all have the audacity to get up here with these ignorant type takes, and then of course, as soon as it's usually not this quick. I mean, they are hypocritical about it in the end, but it's usually not this instantaneous. And that's the part of this that I really can't cope with. Like, the audacity to have known that you said this just a few months ago on a public podcast radio show. Women shouldn't hold office, period. That's her take. And then to file that paperwork to try to get yourself on a ballot to hold elected office 9 months later. Ma'am, that is diabolical. And as far as I'm concerned, you have permanently discredited yourself with this foolishness, and you need to shut the hell up, stop talking about politics, and get in the kitchen. Find yourself a man and make him a sandwich. Seriously. Oh, guys, I'm going to go insane if I keep listening to crazy people and hypocrites. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit that like button while you are at it. Remember to send in your voicemails for our Voicemail Friday episodes. And that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Stay tuned for more, guys, and we'll talk again real soon.